So, Doc Brown invented a time machine. Wait, sorry. Okay, so, Mould King is making GBC kits. How do we feel about this? Like many things in my life, my feelings are complicated. Let's talk about it. After a word from our sponsor.
Is your wallet just too thick? Introducing the Paperclip. With this low introductory offer, you can have your own for only $49.99. Just enter coupon code "What Am I Doing With My Life" to earn 15% off. Wow!
Okay, so this all started when I purchased this set on Amazon. This is the Mould King Marble Run set. I'd always wanted to do a marble run, but I know it costs a lot to do that in Lego. And I just bought this as a one-off just to have as a self-contained module and just kind of play with it just to try it out. And then I kind of went down the rabbit hole trying to do a little research on all this. I had just kind of assumed that it was a stolen or modified design. I mean, Mould King is a company that makes blatant Star Wars rip-off sets, so, you know, it wouldn't have surprised me. And I eventually found out that these are actually designed by Berthil Van Beek. And Mould King actually reached out to him in order to use his design. So that was pretty cool. So I went ahead and bought another set that he's done, which is the Rainbow Stepper. We'll talk about that in a bit. And I found a third set and ordered it. And we're not going to talk about that set today because there's no better word for it. The design is stolen. It was based on a design by Fernando Q, and you should definitely check out his YouTube channel and his Rebrickable page. He has lots of free instructions and some really awesome builds. And anyone out there that does upload videos to YouTube and free instructions online, I would make sure that you have your business inquiry set up on YouTube. This is something I use all the time when I need to get in touch with people. And maybe instead of your design getting stolen, maybe they'll send you an email. You can still say no. There are a lot of people that would say no. They don't want a commercial product made on their design. But it's just something to keep in mind, because I've definitely had to go down some long roads to get in touch with people, you know, going from YouTube to Rebrickable, where I'm not a high enough level to send messages, to Eurobricks and the Discord, and, you know, it's just one of those things that may help you in this situation. So with Lego making arguably the best parts on the market, why would anybody go for Mould King? In this case, cost. Plain and simple. The Marble Run set was $109, and looking at Berthil's instructions, Rebrickable sets it at about $427 to build this set. And that's just average prices for the pieces. You're gonna have to make multiple orders. Not one seller's gonna have every single piece. You're gonna be paying shipping on each one of those. So you could easily spend $500. The Rainbow Stepper is a $50 set on Amazon from Mould King, and about $200 in parts according to Rebrickable and Bricklink. So it's one of those things, you can chastise people for buying a knockoff version of it, but it's not like they were really going to go out and build the real thing. I know I wouldn't have. I'm not going to spend $500, you know, to build a marble run. Now, if I had a lot of parts already, and I actually have purchased some tubing to try to improve this design, but it's just one of those things. And one more quick thing, you know, I was watching a Beyond the Brick video of a GBC layout with Tom Atkinson, and he's absolutely entitled to his opinion and certainly has more authority to speak on the subject than I do. He mentioned, you know, he wasn't even a fan of people purchasing third-party motors and that we should be pushing Lego to give us a solution. And I just don't see that happening. In my mind, Lego has made it painfully clear that we are not their target audience. I just don't see them doing anything for GBC or for changing anything with their current, you know, powered up system. Let's not forget, Powered Up came out and it took them, what, 2 years before we got like the Powered Up app, you know, in its current state. And even then, it's not something I really use at all. I only invested in Powered Up because I'm able to use third-party firmware and third-party apps. Lego is just going to do what's profitable for them. I mean, even look at trains. We used to have, like, look at the 12-volt era trains, then 9-volt, and then now we just have a cargo train and a passenger train every 3 years. And, you know, very limited track options. And look at Mindstorms. Rest in peace, you know? So, I mean, I just have lost a lot of faith in Lego for those kind of things. And, you know, if Lego is not going to do something, I'm fine with a third party stepping in to fill that role. So, I had to get all that out there. Let's go ahead and jump into the sets and look at the details. To be honest, they need a little work. I'll probably will be substituting some Lego pieces in here to make them functional. But even with all that said, I'm not against Mould King doing this if they do it in the right way. So let's get into it.
Okay, so this was a bit of a challenge to get in frame, but this is, you know, of course, the Marble Run set. And I've also switched to my phone because 30 frames per second is just a slideshow. To be able to see the action, I use my phone for 60 frames per second. And I'm also using a 9-volt train regulator to power the motors. It comes with a AAA battery box, like the ones you would see in like a Lego train set, things like that. And I have built it differently. Normally this track would wrap around the back here, and then it would be dropped into the next module. But like I said, when I built it, I just envisioned it being a standalone thing. So I ended it here, and I've just got a panel here to make sure they don't fly out the back. And I also did that because I felt like I was going to run out of this tubing. It didn't really feel like they included quite enough to build it as shown. These tubes come in 3 different sizes. I didn't get any footage of that because, of course, I didn't think I was going to make a video on this. So I got literally no footage of unboxing or any of that. So if you want to see that, there is a review, but it's in German. I did end up watching those reviews and translating and just reading the closed captions. So I will link those videos below. So this is the other part of the build here. It is a simple ball cup or box. I'm not really sure what they call them, but this is in the official instructions if you look at Berthil's instructions. So I guess I'll set it over here. So let's go ahead and fire it up, and I'm going to tell you there's going to be some balls flying. Trust me. Like, this tubing is too soft. And it just kind of moves around a little bit. And here, where you're supporting 4 tubes around the ball, it's way too tight if you just piece it together. So I'm using half bushings here, here, and there, just to get a little more space in there for the ball to go through. So those were Lego pieces I had to add, but I haven't added anything else. So I'm definitely going to modify this with Lego parts, but I'm not going to do that until after completing this video. So let's fire it up. And tossing some balls. We got one, and it actually made it all the way through. Oh, okay, that one flew out. It didn't even hit the other. Well, there goes that one too. Let me just have that forward. Okay, all right. Throwing a few more. Oh. Okay, so I've lost a few. So it kind of works. It can work. It can, and I've already spent at least an hour tweaking and moving the hose a little bit and just all these little things to try to make it functional. And I guess this is as good as I can do with the parts that are included. So I'm wondering how many kids get that as like a Christmas gift, and they're like, this thing doesn't work, So it's a little frustrating on that end. But again, for a person like me, this is what I expected. This is what I got. And I'm actually okay with it because, like I said, I'm going to be modifying it to do better than it's doing right now. But it was pretty fun to build. It's a very repetitive build. I mean, you can tell you've got all these little track holders you got to build all over the place. But I definitely enjoy like this little stepper module down here. I had never built anything like that before, and that's kind of a mainstay in GBC. You see those in all kinds of modules, even if it's just 2 steps to just bring it up a little bit for the next little function. So, I mean, that was a first for me. So, like it or not, Mould King got me to build some GBC functions. And believe me, the floodgates are open, and I'm really going down the rabbit hole with GBC. So if that module only accomplished that, hey, I'm good with it. So that's really all I have to say about it for now. Like I said, I'm going to be definitely modifying it, and I may replace all the tubing. I found a seller in Germany that had 100 pieces. I forget how many studs the length was. I may be replacing all of it to see if it does any better. Because no matter what, you're going to get these adjusted, you know, just right to where it works, and then they're just going to bend again. Because, like, they're just too soft. It just doesn't work that well. All right, let's get on to the rainbow stepper. Okay, so this is actually the second time I'm recording this. Made some pretty major mistakes that I noticed later, even after watching them 100 times editing. But first off, let's look at the instructions. So this is for the rainbow stepper. They're decent. They go into enough detail for the most part. I can't remember anything that stands out in my mind that they missed. But I did find something just now, and that is the direction. I wasn't using the battery box at all. I was using a 9-volt regulator like I was with the other model, but I went ahead and grabbed the batteries just to check, and it actually runs the model in the wrong direction. And I can't give them too much grief because for the last week or so, as I've been messing with this, I've just been trying both directions with the motor, for some reason thinking it wasn't important. And it absolutely is. You want that ripple to go that way. It's one of those things. I'm new to GBC, and it's not always obvious if there is a difference in the direction. And I'll give an example. I recently built the Nonsense Wars GBC Dozer Linkage. And it wasn't until after talking to the designer that I did realize there was a difference in the direction. And the way he described it is one direction gives you a quick return and the other direction gives you a quick deploy. And I would encourage you to check out that video even if you are very experienced with GBC, because he goes into great detail about how to design 4-bar linkages. And I found it fascinating to watch. I'm more of an electrical kind of person, much more than mechanical. So I'm always keen to learn as much as I can. And I know one thing that tripped me up with the direction is I was having issues with this very last one catching underneath the brick here. It was kind of strange. I was going back and forth between the directions, trying to find one that worked better. Because the problem I had was all the balls would just get hung up in the middle, and you could just let it sit there and run, and the balls would just stay there. And part of that problem is these don't like to return down all the way most of the time. You can see I push those up and they just sit there like that. So these are going to be some of the pieces I might replace with Lego parts, like these Technic beams and things like that, to see if I can get it to work a little bit better. But as of now, it works okay. So let's go ahead and run it. This is the ball box, of course, from the other build. This is the ball box, much cheaper for this model, but this one's a little bigger, so I typically use it to catch the ball. Let's start with the battery box. And I'm going to look in the instructions here. And they have the direction towards the green button. So I'm going to do the same, like that. Hook it up to the battery box. And that's about as far as you get. They're just going to kind of hang out there and not go anywhere. And these are rechargeable NiCad batteries, so they're not quite up to par with standard batteries, but it should be fine. So let's try it in the other direction. And it starts working again. At least as well as it's going to. I'll switch back over to the regulator to give us a little more voltage on this. But it's still, they kind of may get hung up on a step, for a few cycles before they move on, things like that. So let's get the regulator hooked up. Okay, so instructions which. Oop. Okay, so that's the wrong direction. And there goes that ball. Okay, so let's try the other direction. How I missed that ripple moving down, I have no clue. So they're getting a little hung up. So again, this one works fairly well. I'll just leave those there. You know, actually much better than the marble run. So I think the marble run's a little ambitious for a third party to try to do, especially being, like I said, the tubing just wasn't the right choice at all. But this is one, I feel like it's not going to take very much modification to make it work well. But there are a few things to keep in mind. And at a certain point, I had this whole, you know, cam along the bottom kind of explode on me a bit. What happened is somehow, you know, one of these went off to the side and locked the entire thing up. And then it started spitting pieces out, like, you know, all these bottom pieces flying all over the place. And I didn't notice, but one of the cams got out of alignment with the others. Kind of an oddity in this build. And it's in the in Berthil's instructions as well, is that the axles are joined inside one of these 1x2 pieces. So you've got half a Technic axle on one end and half in the other, and that joins them together. Maybe that's something that works a little bit better in Lego rather than Mould King, because I mean these tolerances add up over time. And in GBC, that is extremely important. So again, that's ambitious for Mould King to start making GBC modules, because Lego does set a pretty high bar to meet. And let's talk about getting these adjusted, because there is a little bit of play in them. Mostly because in this case, as you can see, there's a round brick there, and then there's a 2x2 brick here. And of course, this 2x2 has a hole in it. So this axle can go all the way up, you know, it can go up way too far. And in Berthil's official instructions, he used 3 plates rather than using a 2x2 brick like they did here. So one of those things they might not have thought about, but, you know, there was a reason that he did that. It wasn't just to use more pieces. But what you do is flip it upside down like this, and then that gives you a much better idea of how to get these adjusted right. And again, I got this idea from the German reviewer, you know, watching his video. I just happened to catch him flipping it over, and I was like, oh, let me try that. So, and all that was after the fact. I didn't watch his reviews until after. And again, I'm just relying on the the closed captions and the auto translate, which isn't always great, but at least we have that option. You know, what a time to be alive. You couldn't do that 20 years ago, you know. And the reason I'm kind of harping on, you know, the balls getting stuck, you know, for a couple cycles and then moving, you know, all that stuff is look at the official model from Berthil. It runs so smoothly and elegantly. So having the balls getting stuck in the middle just doesn't do his model justice. So if I do get this running very smoothly, I will share my findings and show what pieces I ended up swapping over for Lego and those kind of things. So that's about it for this model. I mean, it works okay, you know, as long as you get the motor going in the right direction. And, you know, some of the issues I had, it's hard for me to say if I was doing something wrong, especially after not realizing the direction mattered. But again, I got hung up with this thing catching over here and kind of abandoned that direction for a while. It was a long road to get here, but it does work pretty well. And if nothing else, you know, Mould King did kind of get me building GBC. They got the ball rolling, if you will. And I know this is a bit of a controversial subject, but you know, I'd be interested to hear the opinions in the comments. Just be civil about it. You know, what do you think of these sets? Would you ever buy these sets? Would you recommend them to anyone? Those kind of things. And I wanted there to be a video that was a review of these sets that wasn't sponsored. I don't have affiliate links in the description. I have nothing to gain from anybody buying these sets. And if anything, I might have talked some people out of trying the marble run, because that one is a bit of a pain to get working reliably. I spent a good amount of time with it and still I'm not really close with it. Whereas this one, I eventually got working fairly well. So thanks for watching, and remember to play well.
Okay, so this whole thing started when I bought this set. Forgot to put my phone on silent.